I have been tasked this week with coming up with the biggest brands in the Big 12. And some of you are going to hate me. So I'm going to give a little caveat to this before I put it on here for you. Your team cannot always be number one in everything. Mine can't either. I have favorite teams, and they can't always be number one. Somebody has to be last. Somebody has to be 10th. And sometimes that is just where your team lands. I'm sorry. I'm not evil, and I don't hate you. But here it is. These are the Big 12's biggest brands in 2023. Let's unpack. First, it's the T-shirt school, Texas. They're number one. They have the Longhorn Network. They just got a ticket to the SEC. They're the biggest brand in this conference. Do I like it? Of course I don't. We're living with our ex. I hate it. I want them gone tomorrow. I do. If they win a national championship for the Big 12, cool. Great. Texas is the biggest brand. Got a ton of students, like 50,000 kids, and they win sometimes. They won a lot a long time ago. They're still considered by many a blue blood. Texas, you get number one. Number two, not shocking, Oklahoma, another bid to the SEC. There's a reason that, Oklahoma State and Baylor didn't get bids to the SEC. These are the two biggest brands. Brands pay the bills. Oklahoma, you're number two. They're a big school. They're, the coveted state school of Oklahoma. You're not frustrated by Texas being one, Oklahoma two. That's the way that it is. Number three, BYU. It is the flagship program of an entire religion. Last I checked, it's like the fastest growing religion, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the world. And they are the program that those people go to. So yeah, they're up there. BYU is the number three brand because BYU transcends athletics, right? They're good at a lot of things. Olympic sports are pretty solid too. Football's won a national championship. BYU is the third biggest brand here. Four, that's one Texas, two Oklahoma, three BYU, four TCU. And I don't think it was like this a year ago. A year ago, TCU is kind of in the middle range. But you just went to a national championship. Everybody knows TCU now. If you didn't, what rock are you living under? And when people think the Big 12, they're going to think Max Duggan. They're going to think TCU based off of recency bias, right? You think the modern Big 12, you're like, oh, dude, TCU was crazy. Now, I get it. They might be a little high because the success is not sustained. But I have them at four because they just went to a national championship. Nobody else on here has won a game in the college football playoff. TCU, you're at number four. Number five, the Baylor Bears, who I think would be above TCU a year ago because of the national championship in basketball. One of the premier religious schools in the nation that, again, similar to BYU, commits to religion. National championship in college basketball is huge. And what's bigger is sustained-ish success in college football. They have been a known brand in the last decade in college football. They have been to a couple of Sugar Bowls. They have won a Sugar Bowl against Ole Miss. Baylor's a top five brand in the Big 12 right now. Oklahoma State. Yeah, I like them at six. You could probably argue for them to be a little bit lower. You could then again argue for them to be higher than Baylor. Oklahoma State's one of those weird schools that they have a recent New Year's Six Bowl win. So that's why I really like them at six. They have Mike Gundy, who's been there for a long time. I think they're one of the upper half brands in the Big 12. I'm confident in Oklahoma State being at six where I have them. Number seven, Texas Tech. Interchangeable to me almost with Oklahoma State. Texas Tech has been to a national championship in basketball with a different coach. The problem with Texas Tech is not sustained success in football. You have not sustained success in football. The last 15 years have been a hodgepodge. You had Patrick Mahomes. That's your bright spot. You didn't do anything with them. Basketball, good. Baseball, good. Those two sports don't really push the needle. You need sustained success in the last decade to be considered a top brand in the Big 12, which the rest of these teams don't really have sustained success in football in the Big 12. Does anybody, though? Really, it's a ton of parity in this league. 8, Kansas. Whoa, Kansas fans, I get it. You just won a national championship in basketball. Who won the 2017 national championship in basketball? I know. Your general college fan doesn't. Yeah, I know you're upset with that. Kansas is a blue blood in basketball. Football pushes the needle. What drags Kansas to 8 is that basketball is so good, but football has been so utterly bad. Kansas at 8. UCF at 9. Massive school. Orlando great, hasn't existed as a Division I school for all that long compared to the rest of these. So a lot of leeway to jump into the top 5 within the next 3 years. They have not been a Power 5 team. That has hurt their brand a lot. That hurts any brand, but they still, UCF at 9, are above a couple of Big 12 teams that have been in the league for a while, like number 10, Kansas State. Give me your national championships. I get it. Football's had some bright spots in the last decade. You're coming off a Big 12 championship. Give me your national championships. It's just not a well-known brand nationally. Somebody says name 50 universities. I don't know if Kansas State is in those 50 universities. I just don't. And I think Kansas State, again, like UCF, has the jumping trajectory to get into the top 5. But a lot of people forget that Kansas itself, they kind of, Kansas, similar to a lot of the Big 12 states, can be forgotten at times. So I grew up in Arkansas. Nobody ever was like, oh, Arkansas, where's that? I got that all the time. Kansas is similar. Hate it for you. You can change it. Win a national championship. West Virginia at 11, similar thing. Most people, you say name 30 states in the union. I don't know if anybody's going to say West Virginia. I'm sorry. You just kind of get forgotten. The last time West Virginia had real consistent, listen to me, real consistent dominant success in football, they weren't in the Big 12. They were in the Big East. West Virginia at 11. Iowa State at 12. Iowa's your flagship program. I like Iowa State way more than Iowa. Iowa State fans are cool. They are awesome. But again, tell somebody to name 30, 50 universities in the country. They are not naming Iowa State, and you don't have baseball. And basketball was good until it wasn't anymore for a bit. And what have you ever done for me in football? Literally ever? Not a ton. Not a ton. Houston at 13. You are the 7th biggest show in town in the city of Houston. I personally love Houston basketball and Kelvin Sampson, but again, basketball is not really pushing the needle. Houston's got a syndrome that UCF's struggling with, that Cincinnati's struggling with. You have not been in a Power 5 conference. Cincinnati then at 14. Do I need to explain myself? It's the most normal school in Ohio. Who should Cincinnati go over in this list? Who should Cincinnati go over? I don't like putting anybody low. I don't like being mean. This is not to be mean. Somebody has to be last. Cincinnati, it's you. I know you went to a college football playoff. You're screaming that. Should you be above Houston? You could be, but they, had the Final Four a couple years, but your playoff was more recent. Maybe Houston should be last. Maybe Cincinnati should bump Houston. I'll think about that. I will think about that. Texas 1, Oklahoma 2, BYU 3. TCU lands at 4. They're top 4. Baylor in the top 5 at 5. Oklahoma State at 6, though they could move up a bit. Texas Tech at 7. They could flop with Oklahoma State. Kansas at 8, despite a recent basketball national championship because football is so bad. Then the back half, UCF at 9. Not a Power 5 school till recently. Not a Division I school for too long. Kansas State at 10. Where's your championship? West Virginia at 11. A lot of people don't really talk about you nationally. Iowa State at 12. Iowa's the bigger brand. Not a lot of people know you nationally. Houston at 13. You could switch them with Cincinnati, who's at 14. Right here on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.